There we go.
All right, welcome back to the Pack South podcast. Happy Halloween. Pat, we've seen it yet again. Another coach is gone. This is just a weekly occurrence in college football now. Brian Kelly gone out of LSU.
Yeah, Brian Kelly got the Halloween scaries about a week early. Unfortunately, rumor came out that he was trying to get into the LSU facility on Sunday before it was official, and his thumbprint wasn't working. So a little bit of a bad omen there for him when he showed up. But regarding Kelly, I don't know how you feel, TJ, but I don't think it was ever really a good fit for LSU. I don't think the fans ever really fully got behind the hire. Yes, he's a guy who had won, but never really won at the highest level in terms of winning a national championship. Um, and I also feel like last year when they lost Bryce Underwood, that was sort of almost writing on the wall a little bit, right? You could kind of feel things getting really tense in Baton Rouge, and you knew if he didn't come out strong this year, it was probably going to be curtains for him. And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, depending on how you view Brian Kelly, uh, they did not start great. Joe Sloan really couldn't get that offense going. With Nussmeier, who may or may not be hurt, seems like it changes every week, the official diagnosis. But um, yeah, I can't say I'm too shocked that Brian Kelly and LSU didn't work out.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm a little shocked the timing of this firing. I know the temperature was getting hot for him, but
Mhm.
they'd kind of done enough that I figured that he would get to the bowl game this season at least, and then kind of evaluate the momentum, the recruiting, kind of just what LSU as a whole was looking like. But clearly, they were not happy with where everything was going. So, uh, that so many coaching changes have happened. They felt that they had to do it now. So, yeah, Brian Kelly is the most recent one, which then kind of leads you to who's next. I mean, everyone is getting fired. It seems like every week, and or you have some coaches who are unhappy with where they are. I mean, Dabo Swinney at Clemson's getting a little bit of heat, and he's not necessarily happy about it considering what he's done there. Steve Sarkisian, it appears, is looking to Steve Sarkisian his way out of Texas.
Mhm.
So that could be a developing story there for yet another high-profile opening if that were to occur. But I mean, where do you see the next one landing? You think another big program? Are there any lower end teams that? And we're not talking about guys getting poached. That's a
Yeah,
whole other conversation. I mean, are there any like underachieving teams in like kind of our group conferences?
yeah, I think that's a great point. So I'd say, like, for me, I know I've seen a lot of guys like Pete Nakos and some of the On Three guys put out graphics of like hot seat stuff. You and I were talking about this earlier before the podcast started. Um, I think for me, at least, he should be the hottest seat. Has got to be Luke Fickle at Wisconsin. Um, what he's done at that program is extremely underwhelming, especially considering the pedigree that he came in there with. You know, he had built up Cincinnati into a perennial winner in the American Conference. And I think Wisconsin fans were really excited about the hire at the time. And now there's absolutely no buzz around that program. They got a late, pretty much after the game had been decided, touchdown against Oregon this past week to avoid being shut out for the third week in a row. But clearly things are not good up there in Madison. So I'd say Fickle out of like bigger schools is probably the guy highest on my list. And then for small schools, I'm going to go with Derek Mason at Middle Tennessee State. Um,
For Derek Mason.
for Derek Mason. Just can't seem to work out for him in the state of Tennessee. Maybe he's got to take his talents elsewhere. But the Blue Raiders are 4-15 in the 2 years that he's been head coach. They're 1-6 this year, and their schedule does not get any easier. So it doesn't look like they're going to make a bowl game. They're not recruiting well. They're not a very disciplined team. So I think the sun's getting real low for Derek Mason. in Murfreesboro.
Yeah, very very sad for Derek Mason. I've mentioned before in the past, like love him as a coach, just hasn't worked out in the head coach role. Great defensive mind though,
Mm-hmm.
so depending on how he wants to attack things, if he wants to continue the head coach route, I'm sure he'd probably find something. May have to drop in D2 if he wants to do that, or FCS.
FCS, yeah.
But just something to rejuvenate. I mean, he still has a lot of road ahead of him, but if he wants to go D coordinator route, he could hop right back into an SEC Big Ten school. He's got a great mind for defensive play calling. Um, Luke Fickle, I think, is a great call out at Wisconsin for all the wrong reasons. He builds up Cincinnati. They're a playoff program. He leaves to Wisconsin. Wisconsin's playing great football. Just looking to kind of make that next step with Fickle. And it's not too often that you have a program and a head coach fall off together so
Mm-hmm.
poorly, really. And everyone's saying, well, Wisconsin didn't benefit from this. Cincinnati fell off. Well, look at Cincinnati now. We're going
Yeah.
to talk about them more later as one of our picks. Their college game day against Utah this week. They look pretty good behind Brendan Sorsby. So, I mean, that's a program that went down and came back up. Wisconsin went down and has kept going down. So, yeah, very disappointing for Luke Fickle. We'd like to see Wisconsin build back up. But, yes, that is very likely one to happen. Another one that's almost certain, I feel like, to happen with all the noise coming out of there is North Carolina. The Bill Belichick experience just has not panned out for them. And, it's disappointing you have a guy, you know, not saying that Mac was really getting it done, but, he cared a lot about the program, and for them to just dump him to the side for
Yeah.
what has essentially been a reality show for the last 10 months, 11 months is, kind of unfortunate. So, that program has a lot of soul searching to do to be able to get back on track. And I think it'll probably take a little bit of time in Chapel Hill to really get the football program moving into the proper direction with everything that's happened over the last few years. So we will have to see. That kind of leads, our short list of who could be going
Yeah.
to then our short list of really good candidates.
Mm.
One currently without a job, the other currently has a job, but is being talked about like he doesn't. Lane Kiffin and James Franklin. Who is, if you're an athletic director, who is your number one target going into this offseason?
I feel like, I don't know. It depends on what school you are, I think. I think if you're a school like Florida, like LSU, where you have that donor base and that booster base where you can match a high dollar contract and not really worry about it, then Lane is your guy. But if you're looking for a contract where maybe you're only giving up about, like, I don't know, in the 8 to 10 million range per year, then James Franklin is your guy. If I had to choose between them, I'd probably go with Lane. I think the Lane Kiffin redemption tour, ever since he left Alabama, has been really, really entertaining and super productive for Lane as a coach and for his image. I think people have sort of forgotten all of the troubles that followed him around when he was at USC, when he was with the Raiders.
I don't think Tennessee's forgotten.
Besides Vol Nation, I think everybody else maybe has moved on, and Lane's kind of become like a likable character, which is shocking considering how he was viewed in the public eye circa like 2012 to 2014. Um, so I would really go hard after Lane. He's a great recruiter. He's shown that he can navigate NIL really well. At a school like Ole Miss that hasn't had historic success since, he's built them into a really good program consistently, year after year after year. I mean, we're on the verge, as long as he doesn't screw things up this year, of his third straight 10-win season. So it's impressive what he's done. Yes, James Franklin's done the same thing in the Big Ten, but I feel like Lane is a guy who hasn't gotten that label, whether it's fair or unfair, that he can't beat top teams. Um, so I would go after Lane if I was LSU or Florida.
Okay, very nice. And while we talk about James Franklin, you also mentioned right before the podcast there were rumblings questionable about the validity of the sources, but still enough to mention. Sounds like James Franklin, Virginia Tech. There's a little bit of smoke in those woods.
Yeah, there's some weird buzz going around Twitter. I'd say probably, or X, sorry, Elon. Probably around like 8, 9 o'clock last night into today, saying that Virginia Tech was really close to a deal with Franklin. In that, I think it was around 10 million per year ballpark. Of course, I'm hesitant to say whether that's 100% trustworthy or not, since a guy like um, I don't know, Pete Nakos or somebody from ESPN hasn't reported on it yet. Mostly, it seems like it's a lot of chatter on like 24/7 and some of the recruiting sites. And of course, that's going to carry on to whatever message board. I don't know, Hokie Talk. I don't know what theirs is called, but whatever message boards are out there, they're probably taking it and running with it. And I'm sure the Photoshops are already finished, but
Yeah,
there's a lot of buzz, whether well founded or not, around James Franklin going to Vatek.
yeah, it would be very interesting on the surface level, because there's plenty of marquee jobs available and likely more that will become available in the coming weeks and months. Um, but I feel like if you take a step back and you think about, okay, well, if he goes to LSU, Florida, super high expectations, meat grinder of a conference. He just came from that when he felt that he was, you know, not really like legitimately like had a reason to be fired. He was still progressing and doing things 2 let down weeks in a row, uh, or three rather, and he's out the door. So, and just did not factor in anything that he'd done. I mean, just made the playoff. I believe they were in the semifinal last year at that
Mm-hmm.
point. Um, but I mean, Penn State very much. What are you doing for me now? Not what have you done for me? And he found that out very quickly and right or wrong. Uh, but I mean, Virginia Tech is a team that historically has been a lot better than where they are right now. That's a very passionate fan base, uh, just desperate to get the program back into a winning form. You look at the ACC conference right now, outside of Miami, Florida State, Clemson, large programs, they are losing their way.
Yeah.
SMU can't really decide if they're going to be that firm upper echelon of the ACC, if they're going to be down. Georgia Tech, I will say, has impressed this season. I worry their ability to keep it going,
Yeah.
but it's a fun season this year. But I mean, really, the only firm program at the top is Miami right now. So I mean, that's a wide open conference that James Franklin would come in, recruit hard, Blacksburg, get the DC area, get the fan base really going again, get the NIL money going. You never know. I mean, Virginia Tech
Yeah.
could then be top of the ACC in a conference that, if you're a top two team, you're probably making the playoffs, and you have a slightly easier track
Yeah.
than say coming out of the Big Ten or the SEC. So maybe that's something Franklin, he wants his ring and sees Hokie Nation as a way to get to it. So never know, never
Yeah.
know. Um, but yeah, fascinating news coming out of potentially Black. We talk about the big programs, the big coaches. When the dust settles, so obviously this is factoring in a lot of things because we have coaches like Mark Stoops, who sounds like he could be on the way out the door. You have a
Mhm.
guy in Eli Drinkwitz who could be one of the higher end targets at some of these schools, so then Missouri would be open. Give me one coach and give me one school who's going to be kind of left in the dust and not really holding the flowers they want to be holding.
All right. For I'll do the school first. I kind of went back and forth with this one. I was in between a G5 school and a power school. I decided to land on the power school because I feel like they're the ones who have had a more solid football tradition, albeit it's been a rough 15 to 20 years since they left the Big 12, which kind of gives it away. But that would be Nebraska. I think if Matt Rule takes the Penn State job, and I'm pretty sure he's the odds on favorite right now to get the job, um, I think they're in some trouble. I mean, things haven't been great under Matt Rule by any stretch. It's not like he's lighting the world on fire and they're about to make the Big Ten championship, but it's clear progress from where they were when Scott Frost was the head coach, and better, I guess you could say, than those last few years of like the Bo Pelini era, bleeding into mid, I guess, Big Ten years at this point. So I think Nebraska could be a school that is left at the prom with nobody to dance with, so to speak. Um, I don't know who would really want to take that job on. It's not like there's a ton of talent in the Nebraska area. It's not like they are competing for national championships on a yearly basis, and that fan base definitely wants them to be. So it's kind of like LSU, I feel like, in the sense that they have really high expectations for the job. But I think where it flips from LSU is that those expectations are a little bit unfounded. Nebraska hasn't been a national title contender since probably like 2005, 2006, like on a serious level. But their fans still expect to win 10 or at least 9 games every season. Um, so I think it could be really, really interesting to see where they pivot to if Rule does decide to leave.
Yeah, very, very fair on the school portion. Yeah, it's been tough in Lincoln for a long time now, and it's kind of funny because the guys that they don't really want to be there in name, Bo Pelini, was actually starting to win football games.
Yeah.
He got himself fired for just not being likable. I think he figured it out eventually because he's been coaching a more up than down Youngstown team.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, he figured it out. But everyone like on the bookends of him were having a really hard time. They went and got what they eventually thought is their program savior in Scott Frost, and he couldn't win there. And then he goes back to UCF, which had nothing left, and started winning some football games again. So
Yeah.
it's it kind of leaves the question of is it the coach, is it the environment? Where I mean, year three Matt Rule has traditionally been very good everywhere that he
Hmm.
goes. Uh, but yeah, I mean, if you're a Penn State, how can you not look at him looking at his resume of Temple, Baylor, and Nebraska for college, uh, where they were when he took them, where they were when he left? Penn State's higher than every single one of those
Yeah.
programs. So he's coming in with a lot more. So I think that number one at Penn State, but yes, Nebraska kind of becomes a void. Um, I'm going to make a decently bold prediction
Ooh,
based on
I
where I
like
think
it.
where people are going to land. I think the school that's going to be left in the dust, you could say, is going to be Missouri. I think Drinkwitz will get poached this year, and I think by the time everything falls, um, they're going to kind of, you know, be like, crap, where do we go? You never know. You could have Barry Odom too in Missouri.
Shane Beamer.
Purdue's having a rough year, but Barry Odom was able to build up UNLV when that program was just a disaster class. Put good football on the field. Dan Mullen has inherited that and continued winning. Should be interesting what Barry Odom does the second half of this season at Purdue. I just fear that Purdue is Purdueing really hard.
Yeah.
Um, But you never know. Barry Odom's still liked in Columbia, so that could be an option if they are just truly left with no cards to play. But I think that Drink will get poached, and it will possibly be tough times in Como. Um, that being said, I want to give the coach that I think is going to get left high and dry, like not left high and dry, but he's going to get into a situation that he doesn't want. It's going to be John Summerall.
Ooh,
Um, I think Summerall, the way the chips will fall, will end up in Florida, and I just don't
damn.
think that that's going to be the right fit um, from a Florida perspective and a John Summerall perspective. I think that he's still a very good coach, and he'll win more than Billy Napier in Florida. But I mean, Florida has made it clear they want national titles. They want to compete every year at the top end of the SEC. I don't think that Summerall is going to be the guy to like get them to that consistent point. I think he will much more than Napier. But out of 5 years, maybe three. But Florida wants five.
Mm,
Um, so I think Summerall will
wow.
be the one that he just won't fully mesh with the new program.
Interesting. So you are saying Summerall to Florida. All right, in that case, I've got a follow-up question for you. Where do you
Okay.
think Drink is going to end up?
Um, this this one is tough. I think he's between two schools. Um, I think North Carolina.
Okay.
I think North Carolina would pull him away from Missouri. I mean, he had great success in the little bit of
App
time that he's
State,
been at
yeah.
App State. I mean, that was when App State was just Sun Belt powerhouse. They were guaranteed 11 wins every year.
Hmm.
So could go back to that. I mean, he's built a decent little program in Missouri, but it's in kind of flux right now. It's been so like they're really good, but yet they're just not there. And that's like the
Yeah.
case every season, it feels like right now. It's either a step back year or is that they're in flux. So I could see North Carolina in, I think this was, I would honestly change my pick of school if this was the case. Uh, but the Sarkeesian situation is very
Texas.
bizarre. And that's a job that you just don't know. And depending on when Sark
Wow.
leaves, uh, Drink would fall in there.
Interesting.
So
Okay. Okay.
yes,
I like
very
it.
very interesting takes. However, we're seeing people pop left and right, get fired,
Yeah, no,
leave.
you're
So I mean, you just never know. And I mean, in all honesty, I think Sarkeesian is gone uh,
yeah.
this off season for one reason or another. Uh, and I can't see anyone on that sideline. I just
Mm,
really can't. I mean, you can see like one, two, three guys: Florida, LSU, Penn State. No one comes to mind when you think of Texas. Um, which maybe then all roads lead to Lane. But I just don't think. I don't know. It'd be a weird situation, which it'd be a weird situation to even get there.
yeah.
Um, but yes, North Carolina
Interesting.
or Texas for Drink, which
Okay.
everyone has on their bingo card.
Yeah. So I would say if your theory comes true that Sark does leave, hopefully for LSU and Florida's sake, maybe not so much LSU, but definitely Florida's sake, they've filled their vacancies at that point. Because if Texas comes open, I'd argue Texas is immediately the biggest job on the market, and they're going to throw pretty sizable money at whoever they feel is the best candidate left. So yeah, it's interesting. I think a little different from you. I think that Drink. This is going to sound crazy. I think Drink ends up at Florida though. I think that's where he's
Okay.
going to be. I think Summerall goes to Kentucky. He's a Kentucky alum. They
Okay.
definitely, if they feel like spending the money and not giving it to basketball, um, can pony up the money for Stoops' buyout and give Summerall a decent NIL budget. So I'll say for my coach, who I think will be in, I guess, the dust a little bit or forgotten, I did go with the G5 one for this one. I'm going to go with Eric Morris. And that's not a name a lot of people talked about or discussed prior to this season. But that is, for all you non G5 enjoyers out there, the head coach of your North Texas Mean Green. Um, I think he's done a fantastic job with North Texas. Bringing in Sam Houston's defensive coordinator has made them at least somewhat kind of have a pulse on defense this year. It's the best they've been in a while. And clearly, based on what he's done with Drew Mestamaker, based on what he did with Patrick Mahomes, based on what he did with Baker Mayfield, the guy knows how to coach an offense and knows how to develop a quarterback. I really feel like if he got the opportunity at, I'm not saying a Penn State or a Texas, he's not ready for all that, but a smaller Power Five school, I think he could really excel as long as they gave him time. However, I think the way the chips shake out this year, the way the chips fall, I think he's back at North Texas next year. And I think potentially he moves on to a bigger job next year if he keeps this upward trajectory going for them. I think it's kind of a Sumrall situation where last year, he was getting all that buzz that he was going to leave Tulane, just didn't work out for him. I'm getting a similar vibe right now with Morris. His name's starting to pop up more and more in the national media, but a lot of casual fans for, we'll say, like relatively big programs probably still don't know who he is and probably would be pissed off at their athletic director for hiring him without understanding his resume. So I think he's one of those guys who is going to get overlooked and probably shouldn't, given, again, what we've seen him do. I mean, he found Cam Ward as well.
Yeah, very true. That's a good call out there. I mean, I feel like being at North Texas, that's just such a quiet brand. They've
Mm-hmm.
made great improvements to their football program under him. I mean, they're sitting at 7-1 right now, and if you just didn't have a blow up game against a team that you could not have a blow up game against,
Yeah,
they could be sitting 8-0 and ranked pretty nicely. So, very interesting there. I will hit you with two questions, then we will move on to a
let's
little
get it.
baseball talk. Oregon State, UCLA. All the coach firings on the East Coast are getting a lot of talk. UCLA, under an interim, have now made some noise. They look a lot better, except for when they play Indiana, but no one does. And then Oregon State, who looks good against no one. So, who who do you have in mind going out there? Because I feel like those are just not getting talked about. UCLA, we
Yeah,
might be in an interim hire situation, possibly. Um, Oregon State, that they need some
yeah.
help, and
Um,
they'll need to make sure that they make a good hire now that they're going to like the new pack, however many. Um, I mean,
eight.
the plan is for them to get the conference built back up in a way. I think that it will get back to a Power Five situation, but it would be like a three-tier Power Five
Yeah,
between Big Ten, SEC, ACC, Big 12, and then the pack. But still a better conference. So you want to make sure you have a good coach in there. So let's hear your thoughts.
yeah. I think UCLA is a really interesting, I guess you could say, predicament or scenario. Um, Tim Skipper has done a really fantastic job with UCLA. He did a fantastic job last year with Fresno State as their interim head coach. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some serious consideration about promoting from within, kind of doing what ECU did last year. If you remember, they started off really slow under Houston. They go to the interim head coach, catch fire, make a decent ish bowl game. And just promote the interim. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw that because I think UCLA is a really unique scenario. There's always going to be a bigger program right down the street from you in USC. So you're never going to have that huge fan support for UCLA football. There's always going to be a bigger program at your own school in men's basketball. So I
Yeah,
feel like if you're taking the UCLA job, you're understanding it's not going to be smooth sailing. It's not going to be easy. But I do think this is a crucial hire for them because if they hire another bad head coach like Deshaun Foster, um, the program could be in a really, really poor position after moving to the Big Ten. Um, I mean, their football team, if they hire the wrong coach, could be, we'll say, like Purdue levels, where you can kind of just pencil them in as a consistent bottom dweller in the Big Ten. And that's not really going to drive up NIL interest, fan interest that you need if you're going to compete. The Rose Bowl only goes so far in drawing recruits in. Who knows? Maybe people don't even care about that anymore. Oregon State, though,
Yeah.
hot take here. Um, Jonathan Smith, part two. Who says no? Everybody at Michigan State hates him. He's clearly not happy there. Aiden Childs hasn't really worked out in the Big Ten, but maybe he could figure out in the Pac 12, Pac 8, however many teams there will be next year. Um, he's beloved or was beloved before he left by Oregon State fans. Could we see a reunion?
That's not a bad idea. That Johnson Smith has a name that has not even crossed my mind in this whole like process with things. Yeah, I mean that's definitely a. I think that's a part two that people will be okay with. Speaking of other part twos, Ed Orgeron, his name has popped up at LSU. I think more for
Yeah.
just fun and also Ed Orgeron talking. Uh, but and then also you have Dan Mullen, who's a higher target to Florida, but I think that's the least likely of the three. If anything, I think Dan Mullen would maybe move to Oregon State to stay away from the Big Ten SEC meat grinder that it is. I mean, it's just brutal. I think at least from the SEC, only 5 of the coaches that start the year will still have their job, um, which is just insane to think about. So it's just brutal. I could see Dan Mullen going to Oregon State, but Smith, like you say, is not a bad option as well. So we'll have to see. All we can do is just talk about it right now. That's why we're here. Um, so yeah, we'll see who gets fired and who else we can move to hypothetical jobs next week.
I do have a question for you about UCLA, though, TJ.
Okay. Okay.
You probably have a better read on this than I do as a Seattle guy yourself. Right now, I just checked. The betting favorite to get the UCLA job is none other than Jed Fish, the current coach of the Washington Huskies. I know he's not super popular with UW fans in certain circles, but do you think he would really leave Washington, who's in a pretty decent spot right now, for a job like UCLA?
No, no, I don't. I don't see him moving. Now, if you asked me this question a year ago, uh, and this was last season, the off season, where literally Washington could only win a home game.
Mm-hmm.
They finished 6-7, and all 7 losses were either neutral site or away, so they just could not prepare getting onto a bus. Um, then I would have said, yeah, maybe he'll move because this program was step back from a national
Mm-hmm.
championship game appearance. Uh, but now they're sitting 6-2 in the Big Ten this season. Um, very realistically, I think they could finish 9-3 and have a decent bowl game, just based on what they have left. So no, I think the program's moving in the right direction. I think unless UCLA just gave him a bag, I don't think that he's leaving Washington. And even if he did, I think Washington would see that the program's moving in the right direction. We'll throw a little bit more to keep him home.
Mm-hmm.
Because then I think that UW would then be in a similar but different situation to Oregon State.
Yeah.
Because what coach that knows the Pacific Northwest region well and can compete against Big Ten is going to be in that like UW territory. I think maybe that's not saying that he's a guy, but an Eli Drinkwitz level coach. Not him. I think that'd be a horrible fit for everyone. But like that level of coach
Yeah.
would have to come in, and then the coach is who would need to not only elevate themselves but elevate the program back to where it was a couple years ago. So, long version answer: no, I don't think that there's a world where Jed Fish leaves for UCLA.
All right. Thought I'd get your insight on that since I was kind of curious myself who the sports book have as the favorite. I know I've heard a lot of buzz about Dion going there, so I wanted to check it out. But yeah, let's keep it
Yeah,
moving.
Dion's interesting in Colorado. We'll have to watch that one closely to see how both parties finish the season.
Hmm.
There could be some movement there as well. A lot of factors going in there. World Series talk. We'll spend as little time as possible because that's what we do on anything not college football. 2-2, and I'm just going to point this out in baseball talk, but not really baseball talk. Please stop booking Brad Paisley to sing the national anthem. The games go too long. He's had two national or World Series national anthems. 36 innings. That's supposed to be 4 games. That's 2 games. This man needs to be nowhere near the World Series ever again. I'm just going to say it. And as someone from the West Coast, I benefited the most from that. I couldn't imagine the Blue Jays fans that were in the stadium watching the game because I do believe they are East, correct? Or are they Central?
Jays are East, yeah.
Yeah, East. Yeah. So if they were at the stadium until the end of the game, that was like they weren't getting home until almost 4 a.m. on what? Sunday night?
Hmm.
Yeah, insane. Keep Brad Paisley. He's bad for baseball. Uh, that being said, Freddie Freeman, good for baseball. He's the only person in World Series history with multiple walk-off home runs. That is just incredible. That really shows you just how good of a hitter he is and in clutch moments. Glad that in this latter half of his career, he's been able to stay healthy. Unfortunately, originally growing up a Braves fan, it hurts seeing him playing for the Dodgers and doing so well, but also just, you know, great guy. Happy that he's able to do it. Just wish he was still in a Braves jersey. Um, Game 5 tonight in
Yeah.
LA. We've seen this series go every which way through 4 games, and very likely we have 3 more ahead of us. What's kind of your take on the guaranteed last 2, if not 3 games of the series?
Yeah, I was gonna say, as one of my opening points is I hope, really, truly hope that this goes 7, because I think that would be great for baseball, in terms of getting this out there, putting themselves as something penciled in, must see TV. Otani's obviously going to draw eyeballs, but this Blue Jays team is really exciting, especially with Vladdy Jr. as kind of the face of that team and the face of that franchise. Uh, like you said, it's kind of been a roller coaster. I definitely did not expect Shane Bieber to outduel Otani yesterday. In Game 4, I'm kind of torn on how to feel here. My gut tells me the Dodgers will still find a way to win because it's the Dodgers in the playoffs. But I really, really would like to see the Jays win this. Even as an AL East guy myself, yes, they're in our division, but I don't really see them as like a true rival the way I see the Yankees. And to a lesser extent, I guess you could say the Rays and the Orioles. Um, but I just feel like it'd be better for baseball if Toronto can win. Because if the Dodgers somehow pull this off, um, and go back to back with the payroll situation that they've got cooked up there, I think we're pretty much guaranteed to have a lockout and no baseball in 2027. So, for the sake of the sport and making sure that baseball as we know it survives, let's go Jays.
Yeah, I am also torn. I think almost the exact same way you are. The Dodgers are the Dodgers. They've been in this scenario for the last 10 years. And if they're not in the World Series, they're in the championship series.
Hmm.
So they have so much experience over so many different years. Um, you know, front office has stayed pretty much the same for them. So they've had that stability as well. And they just created that culture, both, in the corporate sense and in the dugout. And you really can see it. So it's kind of a no brainer to then say the Dodgers are going to win the World Series somehow. So my gut is in the same place. Um, However, like, this is a fun Blue Jays team. Like, they hit the ball. Vladdy, I mean, he is doing what every team wants their superstar to do. Not saying the Dodgers aren't getting that as well out of Otani and Freeman. But I mean, Vladdy is the guy. Like, and it's funny, just the family and everything, like just how well it's worked out for everyone.
Hmm.
I mean, he basically won the series against Seattle
Yeah.
with some help from George Springer. I mean, that 3-run home run was eventually the game winner. But I mean, Guerrero stepped up to the plate, and it seemed like every time he was guaranteed either a single or a double. I mean, he was just hitting gap shots everywhere. Um, so I mean, it's a very fun team. They have everyone more healthy in this series. So, I mean, like, they have more bat options, which is incredible to think because just everyone in that lineup can rake. So I'd like I'd like the Blue Jays to win. Like, in the same sense, like, I think it'd be good for baseball to get kind of a team to dethrone the Dodgers
Hmm.
with everything going on right now. I don't think they will, but that's kind of who I'm cheering for at this point. Um, I mean, either way, I think it's going to be fun. I don't know how the Blue Jays can win in six. If they
I
did,
don't see that. Yeah.
I think a Blue Jays win would guarantee seven.
Hmm.
Dodgers, depending on how tonight goes, you know, could Dodger. Uh, but yeah, I think this is a great matchup for getting eyeballs on it. You have Toronto and a greater sense Canada, who probably does not care about the World Series. Well, definitely does not care about the World Series in this regard. First time the Blue Jays have been there in 32 years. I mean, you have the whole country watching against LA. So you have not only LA, but then they've been so good for so long. You have all their bandwagon fans on it.
Hmm.
I mean, they are Yankee Junior at this point. Um, it's yeah, it's good for baseball. It's good for the sport until it's not.
Mm.
If you understand what I'm saying there, just because of the Dodgers and the potential CBA fallout. Um, Dodgers win, bad. Blue Jays good, but lots of eyeballs. MLB, at least in this moment, is very happy with the
Yeah.
show. So uh, I guess that is our official predictions. Both Dodgers want Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's going to be unfortunate for us. All right, we'll move back to college football predictions. Starting off with a really weird matchup. It's so weird that it's even one of our top games of the week. We have Vanderbilt going to Austin against whatever is left of this Texas Longhorn team. They struggled last week against Mississippi State. Vandy gets a at this point it's just a meme, a gritty SEC conference win. Um, you have to assume Vandy's healthier. Texas is kind of lost. Arch, I'm not exactly sure what his injury report is, if it's long term or if he's questionable. Nonetheless, they haven't looked good even when they are healthy.
Yeah.
I feel like it's pretty clear, but let's hear your thoughts.
You know, I feel like it's pretty clear too in terms of like which team's rolling right now, which team looks cohesive right now. Vanderbilt is a lot better on especially the defensive line this year than they were last year. I think that was a big focus point for them is getting stronger in the trenches. I don't know, but for whatever reason, when I think about this game, I think about how good, besides last week against Mississippi State, that Texas defense has been. Um, they've been totally lights out. I think they're going to try and scheme something up to keep Pavia out of the game as much as they can as a runner, right? Make him beat you with his arm. That's always been sort of the scouting report around him. That's what South Carolina did last year when they were able to win. It's what Bama did this year when they were able to win and force those turnovers. So, as much as I hate that I'm saying this and hate that I'm putting my faith in Arch Manning, uh, I'll hook him and go with Texas this week.
Yeah, I'll hook you. I think it's all yours. Um, I just don't see how this Texas team can. They just have not been cohesive at any point this season. And like, yes, they've gotten it done. Like, they do have a very good roster.
Yeah.
Like, that is undoubtedly so. But they just have not gelled. Like, you'll have moments. I think I brought this up last week or the week before, where I mean, you're playing a bad defense and Arch can't complete a pass for a quarter,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have the defense giving up 1 billion yards to Mississippi State, who, albeit I'm a big fan of Jeff Lebby, and that team has looked a lot better, but they're not getting their results.
Yeah.
I mean, that defense was just Swiss cheese. I mean, I don't know how on that screenplay to the running back he got through. I mean, literal Swiss cheese. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
at that point I was like, well, Texas is dead, and then they ended up coming back and winning the game. I think just on sheer fact of Mississippi State's not used to winning, Texas is.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what got it. But I mean, they don't have that luxury this week. I mean, it helps that they're at home, but Vandy has been here before already. They're getting the wins that they need. This would be the biggest win on the road for them, I would say. Yes, the South Carolina game was big at the time. We now know what South Carolina has, so it definitely does not look the same. Could be in a similar sense with Texas, not nearly as
Yeah.
bad, but in a similar thing. And I think this is the first real big domino. Not to say that smaller ones haven't already fallen, but the big one that will lead to Sark going out the door. I think this is kind of what really speeds up the process and the rumblings. Next game, still in Texas. This is Navy and North Texas. Eric Morris is going to get a bit of a marquee game, you could say.
Yeah.
Navy coming into this game 8-0, undefeated in American Conference play. Obviously, North Texas with their one loss to South Florida. A real redemption game in a sense for North Texas here. I mean, they beat the brakes off of Charlotte that you saw in person last week. But I mean, this is going to be a bit more competent Navy team. Blake Horvath still at quarterback, still making amazing plays.
Yeah.
What do you see going down?
I think this is two teams that could not be more diametrically opposed in their offensive philosophies. We know what Navy is. They're going to service academy it, and they're going to run the football, whether that's triple option, whether that's designed quarterback runs. I know it's kind of evolved a little bit since Ken Niumatalolo is there, but it's still service academy football where you're running the ball a lot. And you've got North Texas where they are throwing the ball a lot. Even in that game last week where I was in Charlotte watching North Texas live, they play so quick that you don't realize how many yards they're racking up through the air until you kind of look at the scoreboard. Like, I was looking up and I was like, oh my God, he's passed for 400 something yards. Obviously, you got to 608 in the end, but they're just humming and humming and humming. And they use their pass game almost like a run game at points where they're using those quick screens to replace the run if they can't get that, let's say, like push or that movement in the trenches. Um, I've been high on North Texas all year. I bought them way, way early in the season. I spent $6 to go see them play the Charlotte 49ers last Friday night. And
What year?
and I think they keep it rolling. Like, North Texas is my dark horse to make the playoff this year because I think USF probably has another loss in them. They are a little squirrely for me um,
Yeah.
in terms of being able to close games out. And I don't know, you just can't trust Memphis. So I feel like we might see Tulane, North Texas in the American Championship, which I'm sure the American would hate based on the way things were trending this year. But I really like North Texas. I'm not going to keep going on a rant. Give me the Mean Green.
Okay. I this is a tough game for me. Because when Navy plays good football, they play good football. I mean, I think a couple years ago, couple as in like 10 or so, um, they had a team that under this playoff format, they probably would have been in the playoff
Yeah.
just in general. So, I mean, when Navy is rolling, they are rolling. And I can't really decide if this team is doing that or not. I mean, yes, they're undefeated through a lot of games, but it hasn't really been a dominant Service Academy performance because I
Uh-uh.
mean a lot of times it's followed up by really good defense. Navy is winning their games in shootouts almost, which is not really a recipe for success when you play a triple option. And this is kind of a game that I feel like that gets exposed in. I think the magic number in this game for both teams is not points, it's turnovers.
Yeah.
I think the team that's able to get 2 turnovers, that's going to be the winner of this football game. And I'm actually going to flip here in this, my initial pick. I'm going to ride the Mean Green. I
Okay.
initially had Navy, the undefeated streak continuing to go through. North Texas, so, great week last week. I'm a believer what they can do on offense because even when they lost to South Florida by, I think, 20 points, they gave the ball up 4 times,
Yep.
still had over 500 yards, I believe, of total offense. So, I mean, they didn't play bad. They just
No.
had bad plays, which ultimately can completely change a scoreboard. So I'm going to take North Texas here. Shocking myself. Uh, I think if Navy had won this game, this would kind of like then begin actual playoff conversations for them. They'd be sitting at 9-0. Could realistically get to the season 11-0, depending on what happened in front of them.
Yeah.
They're getting into the playoff, and then the Army game doesn't even matter because that's after the playoff is even announced. So, could be interesting if Navy wins. However, I'm switching sides. I think North Texas will get this one done. Leaving Texas now, but still staying in the South. We have Oklahoma versus Tennessee, a matchup of two SEC teams that are good, but then every big game they seem to just falter.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a who's going to be the number one team outside the playoff for the SEC almost. This is that matchup. Brett Venables, I think this game matters a little bit more to him in Oklahoma. Tennessee getting old Rocky Top on a hollow weekend night. Um, yeah, let's hear your thoughts.
Man, this is one of those games where it truly, like, you hear this phrase thrown out way too much, but it truly could go either way. I mean, Oklahoma could show up, they could play lights out defense like they've been playing for most of the year, except against really the first half of the game last week with Ole Miss. Or it could be where Tennessee's offense is just humming and Joey Aguilar looks like he looked the first 3-4 weeks of the season where, people were throwing him, I think it was clearly way too premature, but throwing him around for a Heisman. Um, my biggest question in this game is actually about Tennessee's defense. I don't think this is a very good defense. They've given up a lot of points to two meh teams, albeit Arkansas has a really good offense. I'm not going to knock Arkansas with that, but they still put up a ton of points on Tennessee. Mississippi State also put up a ton of points against Tennessee and probably should have beat Tennessee in Stark Vegas. But couldn't close. Tennessee could. Same story that we've kind of been saying for 2 years with Mississippi State.
I believe currently the sixth longest losing streak in SEC conference
Yeah,
play.
0 and 12 since Levy took over, I think, in conference play.
Yeah, and I think a
Um,
few more on top of that, I believe. But
anyways, back to Oklahoma. Um, I don't know. I think they figure it out here. I think Venables knows that he needs to win. Um, and he knows that he can't turn in like a 7-5 year, especially coming off the disaster that was last year. And this could go south real quick if they start losing games back to back to back. They're already at 2. I think Venables is going to do some crazy stuff with that defense to try and get in Aguilar's head, try and offset everything that Josh Heupel brings to the table as a play caller. And I really don't like this pick, but I'm going with the Sooners.
wow, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you until the last like 30 seconds, you were definitely building up the other way. Um, okay, Brett Venables and Oklahoma traveling to Knoxville for a win. I think a lot of things have to go right for Oklahoma. I mentioned this game is in Knoxville, so extra tough on
Oh
Oklahoma and
yeah.
Tennessee. I don't know what time this kickoff is. Uh, if it is a 7:30 or 7 o'clock or later kickoff, and Tennessee comes out in the Smoky Grays, they have no chance. Uh, Oklahoma may as well just hop back on the bus. I think that game is over immediately as soon as they do scary Rocky Top with Dolly Parton and everybody. Curtain. Um, However, that being said, we don't know all of that. We don't have the kickoff time, so that one is on us. Uh, yeah, actual football analysis. John Mateer has been struggling since coming back from his hand injury. Um, he was able to get it back a little bit from like the Oklahoma game or the South Carolina game, excuse me. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he struggled a bit last week. He really struggled against Texas, obviously, in the initial return. Um, I don't know if he's going to be able to get the rhythm. So then the question then becomes who is going to be stronger? Is it going to be the Oklahoma defense or the Tennessee offense? Oklahoma's going to get a few points. That's guaranteed. I do think that they will give up a few turnovers. I think Tennessee, their key is just protect the ball. If they're able to protect the ball, get down the field a couple times, don't really risk the fourth downs. Like if you're, on the 30-yard line, just kick the field goal. Take the points. I think the points in this game matter more than in others. So if you're able to get a field goal, that's a win. And I think Tennessee will move the ball enough. I don't know if they'll get into the end zone quite as much as they would like to in a Heupel offense, but they're going to get into threatening positions enough that's going to make the Oklahoma defense have to make some decisions. Um, I think ultimately it's going to get done. I think the Heupel offense will be too much on the Oklahoma defense, and the Volunteers will take their much needed and much like anticipated, I guess, win for just the season they've had. I mean, just having multiple games snatched from them at the last second.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I think Knox will finally have a happy ending to one of their games this season. Second to last pick for us, but college game day this weekend is finally not in the South. Uh, it's going to be in Salt Lake City. We have Cincinnati versus Utah, and what a shock that we're here with
Yeah.
the team that Utah was last year. They came out of the gates a lot better, and then Cincinnati, the team that they were last year, and how they kind of started the year in Arrowhead after that game is like, a lot of eyes. Let's see who's here, and they didn't look really good. I think it was like a 9-28 game to Nebraska. It turns out Nebraska is good. Cincinnati has bounced back very well from that game, and that is a non-conference game for them. This one is conference. Conference title game still on the line for both teams. Who do you kind of like?
Yeah, I don't know. Cincinnati's been such a weird team to try and figure out. It seemed like it wasn't really working at all with Scott Satterfield prior to this year, and then they're just clicking, and they're I think 6 or 7-1 this year. Um, but I feel like they're bound to drop a game at some point. Utah's always a tough place to play.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Utah realizes that their backs are against the wall a little bit here. If the idea is to try and make the Big 12 championship, if some pandemonium happens, they're already at 2 losses. So they got to win out if they're going to make it. And both those losses are conference losses, too. So I think I'm going with Utah here because Devin Dampier looked a lot better last week. They gave me some confidence going back that they've figured out some of their mistakes from the BYU game in terms of like not really being able to execute probably on the level that they wanted to. Um, so I think Utah beats Cincinnati, but this is still only since he's first lost in conference play. If that goes down, so they still have a very real chance at making the Big 12 title.
Yeah, I mean, definitely depends on Texas Tech, BYU for the full picture of everyone. Uh, but yes, I'm a big believer in Rice Eccles being a tough environment to play in. However, I've not been a fan of what Utah has done in big games. They hosted
Mm,
Texas Tech and just fell flat on their face. It seemed like every other game outside of that they played consistently. Well, the only other big game that they had was, yes, a ranked matchup and BYU. So a double whammy for big games for Utah. They should have been prepared more so than ever, really.
yeah,
Like this game is an automatic circle on the calendar every season, and they came out and played flat again. So I'm concerned about Utah's ability to play the big game. That being said, I'm going Cincinnati. Cincinnati has learned from their big game. They've played a not consistent but a growing game of football this
yeah,
season, and I mean it's really impressed. Like you watch them week by week, and they are getting better. Um, so I think by the growth of the week to week for Cincinnati and just Utah with their inconsistency for the big game. If it's
yeah.
just a regular game, regular week, low lights, yeah, they're going to go out there. They're going to get the job done. This isn't that week, so I'm taking the Bearcats.
I like it. I like it. We've got some
Uh,
parity this week.
we have a lot of parity this week, which then leads us to our Pac South game of the week. Emphasis on Pac. We have Washington State and Oregon State won. But Pat, we're analysis, everything, whatever. In the spirit of the Pac-2 conference, you can only give me 2 words for your pick.
Oh, go Cougs.
Go Cougs. All right. Well, this is officially the parody week for the Pac South podcast because give me the Beavs. That's only 2 words. Only 2 words. Right. Yes, Pac. I'm so excited for the Pac-2. This game is going to be amazing for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah.
they still have at least one more matchup. I'm really hoping they split, so then we get a third game because
Why
I think
not?
the team is going to make a bowl game. Just, just play the game somewhere and have it be done. So, all right, this should be a very fun weekend of football for us. 5 picks, 5 splits. No, just kidding. Sorry, I went North
I was
Texas.
gonna say, yeah, you're
I
on Mean
ruined it.
Green.
I ruined it. Yes, I did ruin it.
Ooh.
All right, so go Mean Green. Everybody else, let's have great football, and hopefully we're not a college football coach, so we don't get fired next week. So for Pat, I'm TJ. We will see you again next Wednesday.